All right, today we are plugging in, cranking the volume all the way up, and diving deep into one of the most powerful genres in music. We're going to break down the anatomy of hard rock. You know that feeling when a song comes on and it just sounds huge? Like you can literally feel the drums pounding in your chest and the guitar seems to fill up the whole room? Well, that incredible, powerful feeling, it's not an accident. And today we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how that sound is built, piece by piece. So what is hard rock really? Well, it absolutely exploded onto the music scene back in the late 1960s. Just imagine, you have musicians taking the soulfulness of blues music, mixing it with the super experimental vibe of psychedelic rock, and then basically asking one simple question. Hey, what if we just made this a lot louder and a lot more intense? And bam, the result was this aggressive, powerful sound that was unlike anything anyone had ever heard before. Okay, so to really understand what makes rock, well, hard, we've got to look under the hood at its core sound. This is where the real magic happens, and it all kicks off with one simple but totally crucial ingredient. It is all about the riff. Seriously, the riff is the absolute heart and soul of a hard rock song. If the song were a movie, the riff would be the main character. It's that one part that gets completely stuck in your head for days on end. And what is a riff exactly? You know, for something so powerful, the definition is pretty simple. It's just a short, catchy musical phrase, almost always played on the guitar, that repeats throughout the song. Its whole job is to grab you right away and give that song its unique identity. So if you ever find yourself humming a part of a rock song over and over, yeah, you're probably humming the riff. But a riff is nothing without a band to play it, right? So let's talk about the band's building blocks. It's time to meet the musicians. Okay, so in your typical hard rock band, you've got what you might call the core four. You've got the electric guitar, the bass guitar, the drums, and of course, the vocals. Each one has a super specific role, and they all have to be perfectly in sync to create that massive energy the music is known for. And let's be honest, the electric guitar is usually the star of the show. It's the one that's blasting out those unforgettable riffs we just talked about. But it also gets his big moment in the spotlight with these incredible high-speed solos that are all about showing off just how skilled the guitarist is. But behind that flashy lead guitar, you've got the band's powerhouse, the rhythm section. This is literally the engine room of the band. The bass guitar and the drums lock together to create this super powerful groove that drives the whole song forward. They are the solid foundation that everything else, the guitars, the vocals, is built on top of. All right, so we've met the band. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of how they get that sound. Let's talk about crafting the signature sound, the secret ingredients, if you will. Okay, we have to talk about distortion. This is the signature sound of a hard rock guitar. It's what makes it sound thick and crunchy and powerful. It's not a clean, pretty sound. It's made by basically pushing a guitar amplifier to its absolute limits, overloading it on purpose to get that iconic, gritty tone. And then there are the vocals, which have to be just as intense as the instruments. A hard rock singer isn't just singing softly. No way. They need incredible power. We're talking raspy, sometimes gravelly tones, powerful belking, and even high-pitched screams, all just to be heard over the band. It's a totally different world from, say, pop vocals. It's less about being smooth and more about matching the raw energy of the music. Now, it might sound kind of chaotic, but a lot of hard rock songs actually follow a pretty classic formula. First up, the intro, which usually hits you with that killer guitar riff to grab your attention. Then you get the verse, which is where the story gets told. After that comes the chorus. That's the big, loud, sing-along part you can't forget. Of course, you've got to have a spot for an epic guitar solo. And finally, the outro, where the song either ends with a huge bang or just fades away. But hard rock was never just about the music, was it? No, it's a whole culture. It's about a certain look, a certain attitude, and a whole different way to experience music. A huge part of that is the live show. I mean, this is music that is absolutely meant to be experienced live. The concerts are a gigantic part of the whole thing. Think massive stages, insane light shows, and this incredible energy flowing back and forth between the band and the crowd. It's not just a concert, it's a full-on event. And yeah, the look is just as iconic as the music itself. We're talking long hair, leather jackets, denim jeans. Pretty much everyone wore a t-shirt with their favorite band's logo on it. Throw in some boots, maybe a studded belt. It became a kind of uniform, you know? It was all about creating an identity that screamed rebellious, tough, and totally devoted to the music. So after all that,
What's hard rock's lasting legacy? Let's take a look at its impact today, because this sound, which was born over 50 years ago, is still a huge deal.
One thing's for sure, the genre never stayed the same for long. If you look at the timeline, back in the 70s, it got super theatrical and complex, with huge stage shows. Then, in the 80s, it became way more melodic, really focused on catchy songs that could get on the radio. And by the 90s, it started blending with alternative music, getting a lot darker and heavier. This constant evolution is a big reason why it's still around.
And you know what's wild? Once you know what you're listening for, you start to realize you hear its DNA everywhere today. Seriously? Think about its modern footprint. You hear a pop song with a heavy guitar riff? That's hard rock's influence. You're watching a big action movie and there's this intense, driving rhythm in the background? Pure hard rock. Even TV commercials use those catchy, powerful melodies to make you pay attention. And, of course, it's still inspiring new generations of kids to start their own bands.
And maybe that's the most important legacy of all. For decades, that raw power and energy has inspired countless young people to pick up an instrument and start their own bands, to see if they can make that amazing noise for themselves.
So, from a simple, catchy riff all the way to a global culture, hard rock created this incredible world that is still changing and evolving. Which leaves us with one last big question. What's the next step in rock's evolution? With all this history behind it, where does it go from here? It'll be exciting to see what the next generation does with these powerful tools. Thanks so much for tuning in.